Hi folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money Podcast. This is session 318. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Here we are once again with the last of the in-between episodes before we get going with season 14 next week. Today I'm chatting with a good friend of mine, Karajan Silev. Now, Cal has been helping me a great deal over the past few months here on Meaningful Money. I wanted to introduce him to you a bit more formally, and with his help really to chat about the future of the whole Meaningful Money project. So I'm looking forward to that today. I'm not going to sort of do a lot of stuff around. I'm going to get straight into the conversation in a minute. Don't forget though, of course, this podcast continues to be brought to you with the help of my friends at Seven Investment Management. They've been helping me out here since the spring of 2011 and could not have done this without them. So please check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. Also, don't forget the new Meaningful Money branded self-investment platform from 7im. meaningfulmoney.tv/podcastinvest for more information on that. Okay, let me dive straight into the conversation with Karajan. I hope you really enjoy it. Don't forget links and stuff, all that kind of goodness at meaningfulmoney.tv/session318. Here's the chat with Cal. Well, this is pretty special. I'm joined today by my good friend Karajan Silev, who's speaking to us. Well, actually, Cal, where are you speaking to us from, mate?
I am currently in Brussels, in Belgium.
But you're from?
Bulgaria.
Yeah. What a multinational show this is becoming. So, Karajan, give me... I think it's important for folks to... I'll sort of say what we're doing together, and that's what we're here to talk about. But I'd love for people to know a little bit about your background. You know, it's sort of what you've done and what are you doing now as a job, sort of day to day, and how you've got to this point.
So yeah, well, as you said, first of all, it's a pleasure to be on the podcast. I'm very glad to be here. Currently living in Belgium, but I was before coming to Belgium, I was in Scotland where I was doing my undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. I studied management, and then I studied energy and managing of the energy industries more specifically. So that's where my kind of humble beginning started. And then my wife got offered a job here in Brussels. And just after I graduated my postgrad, I moved with her to Brussels. So ever since then, I've been here working in Brussels. And currently I'm doing something that is very common here for people to do in Brussels, which is in the area of lobbying, working with politicians, working with other professionals to kind of form different opinions and you know, get certain ideas presented to the right people so that you have the right policies and regulations in place.
I imagine that keeps you pretty busy at the minute, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has been really busy, but you know, my area of interest has always been in the area of marketing rather than policy, and that's what's bringing me back every so often to this field.
Yeah. So you and I met because of a mutual friend, great friend of mine, Chris Marr, a man who I love dearly and I wish I lived closer to, because if I did, we'd spend a lot more time together. So Chris is founder of the Content Marketing Academy, the CMA, and listeners have heard me talk about Chris. And Chris has been on the show a couple of times, most recently in season 12. And I've got a lot of time for Chris. And I was looking around, gosh, probably October, November time, something like that last year. And I said to Chris, look, I need help, basically. I got no issue with Meaningful Money sort of creating the content, keeping that sort of schedule up. But there was so much that I could be doing that I just couldn't get to. And just only so many hours in the day, because this is still a side thing for me, despite it being the reason I was put on earth. I, have a day job, which is very important. So, very important, not in the grand scheme of things. I'm not president or anything, but, for me, it's quite important. And so, I needed help with this stuff, and particularly with the marketing of Meaningful Money. And Chris said, you need to speak to my good friend Karajan. So, hooked up on a Skype call, and what I think I knew it was going to be a winner because you and I listen to the same people, you know, both Gary Vee fans, both Pat Flynn fans. And so it was an immediate sort of meeting of minds. But you've done this sort of thing. We'll get to exactly what you are doing with Meaningful Money in a minute. But you've done this stuff before, obviously, and specifically a stint that you had with a guy called Antonio Centeno. Is that right? Can you just tell us about that?
That's right. I just want to give also a big shout out to Chris for introducing us before I talk a little bit about Antonio. But you know, if you're listening to that, Chris, thank you very much. Yeah, I did. When I was in university, when I was just in the final years of my undergraduate, I always wanted to keep myself busy and to learn from doing stuff. And this is when I stumbled upon Antonio Centeno. For those people who don't know him, he's an influencer. He has a very successful business in the US, now doing style conferences and style advice, and he has many courses that are teaching men's style. And he has been doing it successfully for, I don't know, now maybe 10 years or more. He started. He was in the Marine Corps before that, and that's where his beginnings were. But he was really the guy that gave me a very solid starting point. Very patient. He was always very patient with me, and always trying to give me more and more to learn and to experiment with, to fail with, and to pick up from there. And I owe a lot to him and to what he has taught me during the years that I've worked with him.
Antonio is real men, real style. For those of you, I'll make sure that's
he definitely is.
He is. He's the coolest guy on earth, I think. Having met him in the flesh at the Youpreneur Summit last November, I made a point of going over to see him and say, hey, I'm working with Karajan. And he obviously asked to send his regards to you. So, we met through Chris because I needed help. There was clearly a meeting of minds. You and I follow the same people. We believe the same things about how it's important to have a message which is meaningful. It's almost like that was intentional. So without sort of, I'm hesitant almost to ask this, but I'm keen for you just to share about, in the sort of 6 months or so that you and I have known each other, what your perception is of Meaningful Money and how it's sort of, got to this point, and maybe just a little bit, we're going to get into detail about where we're going. But I'd just be interested in your perception of it as a new set of eyes on the whole thing.
Well, when I first found out about you, when Chris mentioned it to me, it immediately, the one thing that immediately stood out was really how much effort and value you have put throughout these years into creating, let's say, compiling all of that information and putting it out there for people through the podcast mainly, I guess, also through the blog that you're having, and just trying to help people. And then when I started working with you and we started engaging more and more with people on a kind of one-to-one, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about that through the Facebook Live or the Facebook group. That kind of manifested itself again, and people were really taking this advice. They were having a lot of success with it, and it really gave me a lot of good feeling that I am kind of being engaged into something really, again, meaningful. And that was really my first impression. Never left me, so far.
Cool. Yeah, good. Haven't done anything to disavow you of that yet. That's good.
Nope.
Well, I'm grateful for that, man. It's important because this is a labor of love. It is, as I said, the reason I think I was put on earth, and I never get tired of it because it's a lot of work, obviously, and it's 9 years in the making now, nearly 10, and. You don't stick at something like that unless, particularly not as a hobby, unless you get a lot of enjoyment for it. And obviously the sort of oxygen that I live on is the feedback from people about how they've, cleared debt and how they feel like they have some direction in their financial life. And that's just fantastic. And the whole point of you and I working together is to get that message spread more widely than I can on my own, because it's a message worth spreading. And so, we sort of started actively working together in January, well, actually a little bit before, preparing for January. So November, December, preparing for January and season 13. So season 13 was the first season where you and I worked together. That was the Millennial Finance season. And definitely been the best received season so far in terms of engagement and the feedback from it, and it really, I think, has met a need. So what is it that you brought to the table in season 13 that I wasn't doing before?
The millennial factor.
Yeah, you are, just because you are one and I'm not.
Yeah. No, with jokes aside, so what we started doing more was right from the start, starting with where what we wanted to achieve was, as you said, reach more people, and we started discussing about how could we do that, and what would be the best way of using really your time and my time, and doing more of what, basically utilizing what you already are doing, but doing it better and in a way that it reaches more people. So you already had very good following on, I believe, Twitter in the beginning, then also Facebook. The Facebook page that you had was something that was already going on, and you were engaging with people there. You had an email list, but we wanted to expand on that, go to other social media channels. Ever since, like we were speaking about millennials, I think Instagram has been another very good channel that we were able to communicate more visually. Yeah. So this is very concretely one of the things that I started doing, I guess, that you weren't doing that much before, was introducing the visual elements that we have used primarily for Instagram, somewhat on Twitter and Facebook, and basically breaking down your messages, the main arguments that you were putting from each episode, into micro messages. And that's something that I've picked up from Gary Vee. Yes. And the way that he's teaching people how to do it. And I think there is a lot of sense into that, because a podcast is like 45 minutes, 1 hour, but maximum, in one of the podcasts there are easily, how many have we done? On average, like 20 messages out of every podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And some of those sort of tweaked multiple times. So I mean, sometimes we've had sort of 40 odd, 50 odd different messages going out, but yeah, it's an incredible amount of work.
And the interesting part from where I'm standing, and what's kind of really interesting to me, is that certain messages are more popular than others, meaning that people are more interested in certain kind of content rather than other kind of content. And our job, or my job, would be and was to kind of be able to see what are people after, what do people want to know more of, and where can we go further and develop further messages to that. I think that's was which episode? Number 10, the questions and answers of season 13. That was really interesting, because then we were collecting questions from people that they were really, okay, I get it, you said this and that, but I have this kind of question. Yeah. And it was really relevant in that respect.
Yeah, it's been a revelation, actually, because most people, long-time listeners, know that I script my show, so I write them out, and they're usually between 3,000 and 4,000 words. I read them, but I've taught myself to read, hopefully in such a way, except for when I fall over my words, it's fairly transparent. But I do that because it enables me to formulate thoughts as I write, rather than just riffing, where it would be definitely a little bit more loose, shall we say, if I did that. So by writing them out longhand, it helps me formulate my thoughts and refine them and sort of distill them as I'm going along. And you and I working together has forced me to be more prepared earlier, so that then you can take the scripts, pull out the main messages, create the visuals and stuff. I mean, it's an insane amount of work that you've done, which is why I could just never have done that on my own. Not only do I not have those skills, but just, I don't have the time. So to take salient points, the main messages, and develop them by refining them yet further. So rather than just listen to me for sort of 30 minutes or whatever, the sort of punch points can go out, which has been really cool. And so a brand new Instagram account under meaningfulmoney.tv is the handle there, and that's growing very nicely. Definitely we were sort of feeling our way a little bit in that first season together, but we'll build on that, more video stuff coming up, I think, for season 14. But an amazing thing for me has been the birth of the Facebook group, which is something that you got me to do, really. I remember speaking to Mike Morrison and Callie Willows from the membership guys last June, And they said, Pete, you just need to set up a Facebook group first, and didn't do anything about it for 6 months. We went ahead in early December, and there's already 1,250 people in there at the time of recording this. And it's an incredible community. So, thank you for providing the push for that. But it's taken the whole sort of Q&A thing, which we're doing at the end of each season now, further, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, because as you say, it's a group where it's incredible. I mean, I'm personally a member of like different groups based on my interests, but it's this group that we have for the Meaningful Money community. It's quite incredible because people are really helping each other and they're looking after each other. Every once in a while, there'll be new people joining in, and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm new here. Can I ask a question about this and that?" And somebody will say, "Yeah, please. Like, let me help you. I've been through this problem. I know what you're struggling with, and I know the answer. And you're correct thinking this, or you're rather should be thinking that other way." And it's kind of like, I mean, it's just people sharing their opinions in the end of the day. But what I have seen there is that when you come with a question, sometimes it's more valuable to open your eyes to the other possibilities that you didn't even think about that existed. And sometimes they could be very obvious, but sometimes could be also very complicated. And I'm very grateful for the fact that we have such a fantastic group of people, especially repeat people that are continuing to bring value to the rest. And it's been fantastic so far. I think it's only going to grow from here. Yeah,
I really hope so. And it's definitely been a revelation as to just what's possible. And there are many other like-minded people out there, folks desperately wanting to help or wanting to sort of share their experience. So as is always the case with these things, there's been more than a handful of people who are repeat question answerers and repeat encouragers when people sort of celebrate successes and stuff. And it's a really cool place to be, and people have commented. There are some members of the group who are moderators in other Facebook groups and who have commented just how good the feel of it is. So that's meaningfulmoney.tv/community is the shortcut to that. That'll redirect to the Facebook page. So if you're not a part of that, definitely come and join us. We ask 3 questions of you when you come in, just about how you found out about the show and stuff, about the group and things like that, just so that we can track that, so that we can produce content. And that is something else that Karajan has brought to this whole game is some sort of science behind it. We need to track these numbers. We need to find what's working. And even on entry into the Facebook group, we've got stats on that. So pretty much everybody that's joined, we've made notes of their answers to the 3 questions, so we know what life stages people are at, the things that they're struggling with, and it's super powerful information. And that's just, we're trying to expand on that. So in season 13, we had the Instagram stuff going out, much more visual stuff, much more consistent messaging on social. The Facebook group kind of grew alongside season 13 and will continue to grow. But the kind of culmination of that, something I've always wanted to do in the past, but which has only now happened, is the creation of essentially a book. It's an ebook around the Millennial Finance season. So do you want to just talk a little bit about how that's come about?
Yeah, while I talk about it, you have to think about the pretty link that we're going to be using to share the book with. So the book is something that, again, coming back to the scripts that you have prepared from before and the questions and answers that people were giving when they were joining the Facebook group. I mean, of course, the reason why we are tracking this and the reason why these are interesting to us is for no other reason than for us to know what, or rather, where can we bring value to you? And there's just the topic of personal finance is so vast that there are so many things to talk about, but certainly some are more interesting than others. And that's what, I mean, it seems to be, right? I mean, I'm not an expert, but it seems that people have repeating the same questions over and over. Then you can say, okay, that's a big thing. What we did with the book was we took the scripts that you have produced for the podcast, again, trying to utilize what we already have and produce something additional, build up a little bit on it, but package it in a different way such that people who are, let's say, more finding it more useful to read and to learn from reading, then they can benefit from. I truly believe that you consume information, meaning you learn new stuff either by watching it, meaning video, you're listening it to either on podcast or something else, or you're reading about it, or you're seeing some kind of visual. And that's kind of the 4 pillars that we are trying to go with when we produce the different content for Meaningful Money. And the book is in the area of the text stuff. So we have collected all of the chapters. We have rewritten them a little bit, so to say, that they fit more the style of a book. And the other interesting part of that is that we have created an additional guide to the book, that every challenge, the season 13 basically had 6 challenges that millennials are facing with personal finance. So each challenge has certain kind of tasks that people are asked to complete as they go through the book. And this is just for the purpose that, people feel like they're progressing, that they're doing the right steps, and something is moving, something is changing. And the first step, of course, is to understand, but the second step is to take action, because as you said in the podcast, it doesn't matter how much you listen to the podcast. If you don't take any action, it's pretty much, dead information.
Yeah. And it's very cool. So shout out to Gudrun Lorette. People have met. She's been on the podcast again back in season 12. And, she's a genius. So she has taken past podcast episodes and created blog posts, all of which will be going up on the new site. More on that in a minute. But she has sort of taken those scripts and, like you say, Cal, has refined them to be a little bit more readable. So rather than me writing exactly as I speak, because I'm reading them for the podcast, she's just refined them and made them more book-like. And it reads really well. You, Karen, you have designed it and formatted the thing, another massive piece of work. So this, I think, as I look back on Meaningful Money, part of why it's become what it has is because I like to think the quality of it. So, I mean, from pretty shaky, wobbly, grainy videos back in 2009 to now proper high definition, fantastic audio, all the stuff that comes with it. Everything, I believe, I just like to do well. And this is credit to you, Cal, because the ebook looks fantastic. It reads really well, and it's going to be, I think, the pretty link you said that I need to come up with. The one I'm going to give initially is the season pretty link, because it will be linked to on there. So it's meaningfulmoney.tv/season13, and then we'll refine it. I'm going to sort of segue to the new website, Karen, if I can, because I just want to tell folk about that, because that is very nearly ready. It's being built by the excellent guys at Jammy Digital. Shout out to Martin and Lindsay there. And on the new site will be a learning center, because there's now so much content on Meaningful Money that it can be a little bit hard to find what you're after. So I did some work 2-3 years ago to refine that and sort of categorizing it based on life stage, whether you're sort of getting started, whether you're building wealth, or whether you're sort of enjoying your money. And that is being further refined. And then there will be excellent season pages. So if you want to go and look at a particular season, like season 13, everything you need, including all the resources, links, and players to all the podcast episodes there, it'll all be in one place. It's going to be super easy to find everything you need, which I'm super excited about. And I keep preceding everything with the word super, which is really lazy. So I'm very excited about that. And it'll be easy to find stuff like this, like the ebook, which is going to be pretty cool. And front and center on there, a little bit of Meaningful Money returning to its roots is video. And again, on your sort of urging, mate, I started doing something I've been meaning to do for ages, which is recording the podcast, videoing them. So, you know, I have a camera here now, and obviously I've always ever done Skype conversations audio only in the past, but now I'm doing the video like this one. What do you think is the power of video? Because you've been pushing me to do more, and now as we sort of chop up the videos of the podcast and make little sort of 1-minute segments for Instagram and stuff, how important is video, do you think?
I think in the world today, that in the world of us seeing different kind of media and this jargon word, consuming it, video is massively important. as I said, we're all different. Some of us prefer to read, others prefer to watch something, other people prefer just listening to it. Everyone's different. And I know from my personal experience, I love listening to something, but I could often find myself being distracted from it. And when I have, let's say you recording and putting a video, then I'm somehow more drawn to you speaking to me, to the camera. And we've seen, many people having great success with it. The likes of Gary Vee, of course, Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, and so on. And maybe that's not the kind of style, and that doesn't really matter, but it's the same kind of principle, putting different content for the people that are that prefer viewing you, like watching you on YouTube or another platform. So for me, that's the massive thing.
It is massive. I mean, I hear stats all the time, by the year 2025, 90% of the content on the internet will be video. I don't know whether that's true or not. I think it probably will be, not least because video is massive file sizes. So if we're measuring by that sort of by bandwidth and megabytes or terabytes, then it probably will be mostly video. But I mean, I love video, man. It's what got me into this, watching the sort of some of the really early video guys, man alive. Some of them were super early, but it was Gary Vee was the key one. Doing Wine Library, literally sitting in front of a camera, tasting wine and talking about it. I thought, man alive, I could do that and talk about money. Maybe people will listen. And his early videos were nowhere near as produced as they are now, of course, because he's a gazillionaire and has a team of people following him around. But I mean, I love video. I'd love to be able to do more. And as I try to free up more time to do Meaningful Money, I want to do more video. I've really enjoyed doing the video that I am. I love 5 Minute Friday. I have a blast doing those and chopping up and editing them. And hopefully people tell me that comes across. So videos are going to be a big part of what we continue to do.
And sorry to interrupt you, but that again kind of fits into this idea of utilizing what you're already putting out. And it doesn't take maybe it takes you a little bit of time in post-production, but I guess it's not that much. But what I mean is you're already recording the podcast. You just put a camera on the side, another one, as you have 2 cameras, I guess now, but they're recording at the same time. It doesn't take any additional time out of your day to do that, but the end result is that you have one more additional source of information that you can provide to people. And I think that's the value behind it.
Yeah, and the cool thing is obviously that could be the long form, so people could watch the whole thing if they wanted. They could watch a 30-minute podcast, but particularly now going forward and into season 14, you're going to be taking that 30-minute piece of video content, taking out half a dozen key points, maybe chopping them up, whacking them on Facebook as little taster videos, Instagram and stuff, which is becoming increasingly popular, just as a means of, people just can see that on their Insta feed and think, okay, let's click through and listen to and subscribe to the podcast, which is still a sort of centerpiece, So, I mean, you're right. It doesn't take a whole lot of extra time. The camera's just there. It's just a case of hitting the record button. The post-production stuff is relatively easy. Maybe it's an extra hour at most, really. It's not that bad because it's a lot of templated stuff. And but I would love to be doing much more vlogging and sort of Peter McKinnon style stuff, but that is a hell of a lot of work. I mean, that is just hours and hours and hours of sorting through footage and then editing it and stuff. I'd love to do it, but I just don't have the time yet to do that. Let's talk about the Academy, because we've been trailing it for ages. I spent all of season 13 talking about it. It isn't ready yet, but by the time this goes out, it'll be a little bit closer, and we are getting there now. So the Academy is going to be like next level content, super practical, where people can, I did it again, super, God, where people can join, get the benefit of specific courses or tasks and programs to deal with particular issues, whether that's getting out of debt, whether that's learning how to invest. It's basically going to be a central point for the courses that I've put out so far, and a whole lot more. So, this is another thing that you've pushed me to do. I wonder what you think the benefit will be to both the people and to the Meaningful Money brand.
I think that the benefit, quite simply, is going to be oriented to the people that are looking to get results fast. Because you can find any kind of information on the internet. You can spend hours, days, weeks reading, going through. But honestly, in the end of the day, if you like, that's an exercise we used to do before with Antonio. If you kind of write what your time is worth per hour, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna spend like 100 hours researching this topic, I would have just spent X amount of pounds out of my own pocket just wasting my time reading about something where I could rather go on a professional course like this, and I can find the information in a very structured manner so that I don't spend hours and hours and hours of researching. Everything is laid out for me so that I can quickly see what I need to know and immediately take action so that I get to the result and the benefit that I'm going for. I think that's the value that people are getting. Of course, it's not for everyone. I mean, not everyone would be able to just spend money and that's perfectly fine. I mean, we're still doing the podcast. That's why we're still trying to increase the content that we're putting out there that is completely free, including that book that we spoke about.
Yeah, sure.
But the course in itself is for the people that are looking to get the results quick and to progress and take action immediately.
Yeah, that I could not have put that better myself, mate. That was superb. That's exactly it. Clear, focused action. Do this, and then this, and you'll be fine. It works. We've tested it. Lots of people have tried it out already. Had quite a lot of success with that with the Learn How to Invest course, which is still, is a standalone thing. And folks that have bought into that will be grandfathered into the academy for that element of it. But it will enable me to take that much wider, much deeper, really, for those who want it. So my vision for it, and this will take at least the rest of this year to put together, will be, again, to have almost like an area of the academy for each of the three main financial life stages: getting started, sort of setting things off in the right direction, then building wealth and eventually accelerating that, and then eventually making the great transition into enjoying your money, what many of us still call retirement. So it is focused, direct, clear, get results quick type stuff. In many ways, there's only so many ways to skin a cat. A lot of the stuff in there I will have gone over on the podcast, right? It's not like I'm saving my best stuff to put behind a paywall. You could listen to 10 Years of Meaningful Money and do all that stuff yourself. But as you rightly say, it's a time-saving thing. People need convenience in an incredibly busy world. And what I hope to do is provide a load of value there. And looking forward to getting it launched. I know I've benefited from courses like that where I've needed to learn how to do something quickly. One of them was setting up this podcast booth that I'm now talking to you in. I took a course with Cliff Ravenscraft, the podcast answer man, paid him something like negligible, like $100 or something. And this has served me well since 2012, since I started the podcast, whereas I could have researched it for hours. And it just fixed it. So it's superb. So stay tuned, folks. We're going to be sending emails out pretty soon, aren't we, Cameron?
Yes.
We're just pre-registered, yeah? Yeah,
exactly. So what you've already done was asking people to indicate interest. We have quite a lot of people who have done that. And those people that are willing to continue, we're going to invite to be sort of the people that are, let's say, kind of founders group.
Yeah.
That are going to help us build this thing and make it very relevant to the to the questions that a regular person might have. And so we're going to work with this founders group, develop it completely, and then launch it to the rest of the world.
Absolutely, it'll be worth waiting for, folks, and I promise. And we're starting with the getting started thing because that's almost like a test case. We can sort of get that launched, make sure that the systems work and all that, and then we can develop the building wealth stuff, which will be, there's more in there, obviously, because that's a much broader church of people that needs to serve. But there's massive plans for that, including what will be a first here in the UK, which will be access to folks wanting to do their own financial planning using the industry-leading Voyant software. So that's the software that I use here at Jackson's, and it is supremely powerful. And a lot of people who listen to the podcast want to do their own financial planning, their own forecasting, and the system can do that effortlessly. It's a wicked piece of kit, and I can't wait to get that in front of you. That's obviously a subscription thing, so we'll work out the pricing for all that. But loads of great plans. As ever, it's just a case of getting it right before we launch it. So it'll be done right rather than quick, but it will be ready when it comes. So for those of you that are pre-registered, thank you. We'll be in touch very soon with some more information very soon. Promise in the next couple of weeks. That's the idea from when this goes out.
Yep.
Cool. So let's talk about season 14. Just sort of wrap this up here, mate. So season 13 was a success by any measure. Easily my most commented on, most responded to podcast season ever. And my plans for the rest of this year and a little bit beyond are to continue to build on that. So season 14, announcing here for the first time. I really battle over what to call these things, and I'm never fully happy with what I come up with, but I'm going to call it the New Accumulators series. All right, New Accumulators, because we've talked about really the millennial finance stuff was a lot of the getting started things, dealing with challenges with basic financial disciplines. I want to now take that on, and rather than deal with a life stage in terms of age, it's sort of dealing with folks who have got the basics right. They've got their budget right. They've got their debt sorted, all that sort of thing, but they're now looking to begin to invest. And I know that is the biggest cohort of my listeners, those that are thinking, right, how do I start an ISA? How do I start a pension? What funds do I choose? All that sort of stuff. How do I keep an eye on it? Do I pay extra to get financial advice? All this sort of stuff. So over the next 3 or 4 seasons, incredibly, I've never been this organized in my life. I've got the next 3 or 4 seasons mapped out, and this next season 14 is going to be New Accumulators. Nice. So we got loads of stuff planned for this. Lots of video, lots more social messaging, much more giveaways, checklists, all this stuff for free. And it's going to be cool. It's a lot of work, but I'm really excited about it. It's going to be good, right, man?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember when we started season 13, and we were speaking about all the stuff that we are going to do, and I think what we managed to do has grown since then. In a way, we have overdone our aspirations, I believe. I mean, the book was something that wasn't really planned. We started thinking about doing something like this in the middle of it, more or less. Yeah. And it has developed beautifully, and I'm really happy with it. I hope that we'll be able to do something similar for season 14. Definitely. And build upon it. Create more of these giveaways, create more value that we can share absolutely free with people, with the only hope that it brings value to even one person. I'll be happy. Like if I know that one person got value out of it and it changed them for the better, I'm super happy that I spent all the time.
Yeah, and it's just extremely exciting. The numbers continue to grow. So we've surpassed 2 million downloads of the podcast. We're nearly on 2.25 in just a couple of months further on. So by the end of this year, we'll be past 3 million, and then we'll probably stop counting, But the YouTube channel is growing, nearly on 3,000 subs there. My 16-year-old daughter laughs because she watches YouTube influencers with millions of subscribers. But, I'm fairly happy with 3,000. That's okay. But Kalyan, I just want to say, massive thank you, mate, because you have pushed me. You have pushed me in ways that I kind of wanted to go, but didn't just have the time or the impetus to do it. And having somebody saying, Pete, we need to do this. Do you want me to do it, or can you do it? And I'm just like, Kalyan, if you can do it, man, that's awesome. So I want you to know how much I appreciate what you've brought so far. How excited I am to have you on board, and the future's very bright. Gudrun, who's not on this call but who I've spoken to before, I want you to know that I appreciate you too. It's exciting to know what's possible with more than just little me doing this. So I just want to say thank you, mate, and thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Okay, there you go. Lots of great stuff to come. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kalyan. He's a great guy, real kindred spirit. Love chatting with him over Skype. Really weird to be spending quite a lot of time working with somebody that you've never met. So hoping to rectify that before too long. So loads of great stuff to come, including season 14, which starts next week. So I just wanted to say thank you for your continued support. The show continues to grow. Best part of 100,000 downloads a month now, which is just nuts, right? I remember when it was 1/10 of that, and I was pleased. I'm just astounded by it, so I'm blown away by your support. Please keep it coming. Please tell everybody you know about the show. particularly this season coming up. Anybody who's looking to start building wealth, you're going to get a load of value from it. So now's the time to start listening if they're not already. So please tell everybody you know. That's it for this week, folks. Hope you found it interesting and helpful. Any comments, you know what to do. Leave them at the show notes. meaningfulmoney.tv/session318. meaningfulmoney.tv/session318. Thanks again to Kawayan. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next week.